Welcome to another edition of Today's Religious Truth. I'm Francis Nye. Every week, Today's Religious Truth highlights religion's role in intolerance and oppression throughout the world.
And this week on Today's Religious Truth, I'm going to explore the question, are gays more dangerous than terrorists? So let's get started. Sally Kern, Republican Congresswoman for Oklahoma, was reported to have renewed her claim that homosexuality has killed more people in the United States than terrorism. She has renewed this claim from a claim she made 3 years ago, in which she said, and I quote, "Homosexuality is deadly and spreading, and will destroy our young people and our nation." She went on to say, and I quote again, "Studies show that no society that has totally embraced homosexuality has lasted for more than, a few decades." End quote. So here's my take on all this. First of all, her premise that homosexuality has killed more people than terrorism, well, that's actually laughable. Second of all, there has been many societies that has embraced homosexuality and have lasted for more than a few decades. I'll give you a couple examples. The Greek society was considered normal for men to have sex with other men. The classical Greek society lasted roughly 350 years, and the Hellenistic society another 180 years. Another fine example is the Roman society. The Romans' homosexuality was acceptable if it was kept discreet, especially with the upper class. Also, it was completely normal to own one or more slaves for sexual pleasure, even homosexual pleasure. The Roman Republic lasted roughly 450 years, while the Empire lasted 520 years. That's almost an entire millennium. In both these examples, Greek and Roman cultures lasted more than a few decades. The Congresswoman has a real lack of historical knowledge, for sure. As to the fact that homosexuality has killed more people than terrorism, well, how can I say that? That's just plain poppycock. First of all, what does she consider terrorism? In a traditional sense, terrorism is defined as the use of violence and threats to intimidate or even coerce, especially for political purposes. If we take the traditional and accepted definition, we can see that all forms of violence are considered terrorism, everything from state-sponsored terrorism to the mundane everyday robbery. So taken as a whole, the Congresswoman is just flat wrong. Also, if we're going to campaign against things that kill people, then I can think of a few more worthy causes than just homosexuality that come to my mind. Just one example is cigarettes. The CDC, that's the Center for Disease Control, states that tobacco use is the single most prevalent cause of disease, disability, and death in the United States. Each year, an estimated 443,000 people die prematurely from smoking or exposure to secondhand smoke, and another 8.6 million live with serious illnesses caused by smoking. Only 279,000 gay men died of AIDS in the last study that was taken. It would seem to me that smoking is almost 33 times more dangerous than gay sex. So why is Congresswoman Kern trying to spearhead a program against homosexuality? What could be her motivation? Well, it's religion, of course. The Congresswoman represents a state in the Bible Belt, Oklahoma. Her husband is also a Baptist minister who is vehemently against and outspoken towards the gay community. He has even gone so far as calling for gays to be court-ordered to be interned in re-education camps so that they can be cleansed of their homosexuality. In my opinion, that smacks of fascism. I like what Sinclair Lewis, the first U.S. writer to win the Nobel Prize in Literature, said. He said, and I quote, "When fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in a flag and carrying a cross." Among young people, gays are not causing death as claimed by Kern and her husband, but the lack of safe-sex education in my estimation. So instead of calling for re-education camps for gays, why don't we just step up our efforts to promote scientifically proven methods for safe sex? Like condom usage. Kern also has a gay son, who she has disowned and has tried to hide her whole career as if he were some sort of embarrassment to her and her family. Wow, religious family values hard at work yet again. And yeah, I'm being sarcastic. So you can see how all this adds up to her seething hatred towards the gay community. The Congresswoman also claims that the United States is founded on religious principles and virtues. If you've read any of my previous posts, you would soon discover that the American founders were anything but religious. In fact, they did everything possible to distance the country's framework of laws from religion. The aim of our founders was to establish a secular, enlightened republic that would be the envy of the world. Champions of secularism like Jefferson, Franklin, Adams, and Paine, just to name a select few, knew that religion was the enemy of liberty and the ally of tyrants. You know, America seems very conflicted over religion today, much to my dismay. On one hand, America has established a secular free society, but yet there is a certain segment of the population that demands oppressive behavior, like the systematic re-education of gays or laws that ban them from everyday rights that heterosexuals currently enjoy. This religious hatred that seems to permeate the Republican Party, or as I like to think of them as, the American Christian Party, seeks to unravel the very fabric of America with their weaponized form of Christianity more than anything else, including terrorism or sexually transmitted diseases such as HIV. Here's my weekly question. Specifically, how is it that homosexuality is threatening the fabric of American society? I mean, really, what makes it more dangerous than terrorists in some people's minds? Please leave your comments and opinions. Well, that's it for this week. Join me next week for another edition of Today's Religious Truth. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube. I'm Francis Nye. See you next week.